When I was little, my grandpa told me that I was stolen by a werewolf. He secretly took me back from the wolf's den. But the werewolf had already memorized my scent and would definitely come back for me. When I was 6 years old, I said to my grandpa, "Grandpa, look! There's someone on the mountain staring at our house." I got scared too, and Grandpa said, "Oh no, that's not a person, it's a werewolf." I shouted to my grandma inside the house, "Grandma, quick! Bring the fire inside. The werewolf has its eyes on us." Grandma rushed out saying, "Old man, are you sure? This isn't a joke. It's been so long, hasn't the werewolf forgotten about us?" Grandpa, who had been a hunter his whole life with sharp eyesight, immediately spotted the figure I mentioned. He said with certainty, "I'm absolutely not mistaken. Look at what's sticking out from the bottom of his pants." Back then, there were no cell phones to play with, so my eyesight was pretty good too. I looked closely and saw a tuft of fur sticking out from the person's pants. Upon closer inspection, it was clearly a tail. I was startled. I'd seen wolf tails before, gray fur just like a dog's tail. Our village is very remote, nestled at the foot of the mountain. Our ancestors were all hunters, making a living by hunting. Later, when transportation improved, many young people from the village left to work in the city. My parents did too, so I became a left-behind child. Grandpa often went hunting in the mountains, and I'd seen animals like wolves, deer, and wild boars. But Grandpa told me that werewolves aren't ordinary wolves. They can disguise themselves as humans. When I was 1 year old, because no one was around to look after me, Grandpa and Grandma had to carry me on their backs to work in the rice fields. But carrying me all the time made work difficult, so they placed me on a nearby ridge. A werewolf, disguised as a human, walked past them and stole me away. By the time Grandpa, Grandma, and the nearby villagers realized what had happened, it was too late. The werewolf was gone. Grandpa was frantic, like an ant on a hot pan, but he quickly calmed down. He said, "Don't panic. I've heard from the elders that werewolves become less vigilant 3 days after stealing a child. I'll go get my grandson back myself." So, Grandpa took his hunting rifle, packed enough food, and went alone into the deep mountains. A month later, just when everyone thought both he and I were gone, one morning Grandpa appeared at the doorstep, holding me in his arms. He renamed me Wang Hu, hoping I'd grow up to be as strong and fierce as a tiger, able to fend off werewolves. Grandpa quickly reinforced the fences around the house, sharp traps set up to keep out animals like weasels that might steal chickens. Grandma was so anxious she nearly cried, saying, "What do we do now? Poor is our precious grandson. We can't let anything happen to him again. How would we face his parents?" Grandpa reassured her, "Poor will not slip through my hands again. Even if it costs me my life, I'll protect him. It's broad daylight now, and werewolves are smart. They won't come down the mountain." With snow about to fall, Grandpa said he needed to go to the village chief for help. He told Grandma to lock the doors and windows tight and not open them for anyone until he returned. After Grandpa left, Grandma grabbed nails and sealed the windows shut, leaving no gaps. She told me, "Go to sleep, cover your head with the blanket, and you won't be scared." I obeyed, going inside, both terrified and curious. Time seemed to crawl by. About 15 minutes later, I faintly felt someone outside the window. Thankfully, the windows were nailed shut, which gave me some courage. Peeking through a crack, I saw snow starting to fall, blurring my view. Then I noticed footprints in the snow nearby. My heart sank. Snow had just started falling, so whose footprints were these? Could it be the werewolf? The more I thought, the more scared I became. Suddenly, a shadow passed by the window. I screamed, "Grandma, there's someone outside." Grandma rushed in asking, "Are you sure?" I pointed to the snow. "I didn't see wrong. Look, there are footprints." Grandma pressed her face to the window but said, "I don't see any footprints." I looked again and the footprints were gone. I began to wonder if I'd imagined it. Just as Grandma and I started to relax, there was a knock at the door. Excited, I jumped off the bed shouting, "Grandma, Grandpa's back." The thought of Grandpa's return made me bold. But Grandma's face grew serious. She called out, "Old man, is that you?" A hoarse, heavy voice replied, "It's me." I couldn't tell if it was Grandpa's voice. Grandma asked, "Why's your voice so hoarse?" The voice grew urgent. "It's snowing outside. I caught a cold. Open the door quick or I'll freeze." The knocking grew louder, almost desperate, as if the door would break. My heart trembled, praying the door would hold. Grandma pulled me behind her, grabbing a large knife. She couldn't use a hunting rifle, and Grandpa had said werewolves are too fast to hit with a gun. Thankfully, the knocking stopped. As night fell, I saw firelight outside. A voice called, "Open the door, it's me." This time it was clearly Grandpa's voice. Grandma hesitated, still shaken. Then another voice shouted, "Second aunt, it's me, the village chief." Hearing others, Grandma finally opened the door. Grandpa saw the claw marks on the door and asked, "Did the werewolf come?" Grandma nodded. "Get inside quick. It might still be nearby." Grandpa sighed in relief seeing us safe. The adults gathered around the table, discussing how to deal with the werewolf. Grandma asked what the other villagers thought. Grandpa said, "They don't believe it. They think it's just a story to scare kids." The village chief suggested calling the police, but Grandpa sighed, saying there were only two options: gather the villagers to catch the werewolf or send Hooer to the city, as the werewolf wouldn't stop until it got me. Hiding in the house forever wasn't a solution. The next day, the village chief rallied the villagers. Seeing the claw marks on our door, some believed Grandpa's story about the werewolf stealing me when I was 2 and him rescuing me from the mountains. Others, like Wang Chui, laughed, saying, "You're all crazy. There's no such thing as a werewolf. It's freezing out. I'm not wandering around for this nonsense. Even if there is a werewolf, I'll stay inside. It can't eat me." Some villagers wavered, thinking it was safer to avoid trouble since the werewolf was after me. Grandpa glared at them angrily, but many left, unwilling to get involved. Still, some stayed to protect the village. The village chief organized a search for werewolf tracks, but the snow grew heavier. Before the mountain roads were sealed, the police arrived. Grandpa only mentioned a wolf, not a werewolf, knowing they wouldn't believe it. The police set up iron nets at the mountain's base and searched, but the deep snow made it impossible to find anything. As expected, they found no trace of the wolf and left after a few days, advising us to stay safe. Grandpa knew a werewolf could hide perfectly, maybe even blending in as a villager, the most terrifying possibility. After the police left, most villagers thought the werewolf was gone or never existed. But Grandpa stayed vigilant, certain it would return. One morning, the village chief and Wang Chui came to our house. Wang Chui was crying, saying her husband, Wang Han, had gone missing. After a fight the previous night, she kicked him out, thinking he'd return or sleep in their old house. But he was nowhere to be found. She feared the werewolf had eaten him. Grandpa scolded her, "If you hadn't doubted the werewolf and turned the villagers against us, would this have happened?" Wang Han's disappearance spread through the village, causing panic. The chief organized a search, but found nothing. That night, Wang Chui and others came to our house, demanding I be handed over to the werewolf to save the village. Grandpa, furious, grabbed his rifle, and the mob dispersed. My uncle said the village wasn't safe anymore. I had to be sent to the city, or the villagers might turn on me before the werewolf did. The next day, surprisingly, Wang Han returned. He apologized for the trouble, saying he'd stayed at a friend's house in another village after the fight. He seemed different, his smile stiff, but oddly, I felt a strange closeness to him. Wang Han offered to stay at our house to protect me, saying, "With my build, am I afraid of a wolf?" Grandpa agreed, thinking a strong man would help. Wang Han slept in a small storage room off the kitchen. For the next few nights, Wang Han sat outside on a stool, guarding the house, seemingly unbothered by the cold. Snow piled on him, but he refused to come inside despite Grandpa's urging. Then strange things happened. Chickens started disappearing from our coop. Grandpa suspected the werewolf was back. He asked Wang Han if he'd noticed anything odd, but Wang Han blamed weasels, saying he'd been too focused on protecting me. One night, I woke up needing to pee. Moonlight streamed through the window, and I saw a shadow outside, eyes staring at me through the crack, cold like a wolf's. I screamed, "Grandpa, the werewolf's here!" Grandpa and Grandma rushed in, Grandpa grabbing his rifle and running outside. Wang Han came from the kitchen, asking what was wrong. I stepped back, those eyes looked like his. But I wasn't sure. Grandpa told Wang Han to keep watch outside, saying he could catch the werewolf faster that way. Later, I whispered to Grandpa that I thought it was Wang Han outside. Grandpa dismissed it, saying if Wang Han was the werewolf, he'd have plenty of chances to harm me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Moonlight hit my face again, then was blocked. I knew something was watching me. Too scared to open my eyes, I waited. When the moonlight returned, I peeked. No one was there. But a chicken's cry cut off abruptly from the coop. I crept to the window and saw Wang Han in the coop, strangling a chicken and eating it raw, blood dripping from his mouth. I ran to Grandpa, saying Wang Han's the werewolf. I saw him eat a chicken alive. Grandpa hushed me, looking out the window, but the coop was empty, and the kitchen was silent. The next morning, Grandpa was gone. Grandma said he'd left to get help to catch the werewolf. At dawn, Grandpa, the village chief, and others surrounded the kitchen. They dragged Wang Han out, who looked shocked. Wang Chui cried, insisting he was human. Grandpa said werewolves can't hide their tails and ordered Wang Han's pants removed. Wang Han, unfazed, stripped down himself, revealing no tail. Wang Chui shouted that we'd been fooled. I felt guilty, thinking I'd been wrong. Then Grandpa noticed a fresh scar on Wang Han's tailbone. Wang Han said he'd slipped in the snow. Grandpa sighed, apologizing. Wang Han kindly wiped my tears, saying he didn't blame me. His warmth felt oddly familial. Some villagers joked that Wang Han, childless, should adopt me. He just smiled stiffly. That evening, Grandpa decided to send me to the city. The snow had stopped and the roads were passable. With my uncle and Grandpa, we set off on a donkey cart. Wang Han wanted to come, but Wang Chui dragged him back, scolding him. The journey was slow, the road still snowy. Halfway, a foul stench hit us, like rotting fish. Grandpa said, "It's the werewolf. It's been eating livestock." A wolf howl pierced the night. The donkey froze, refusing to move. Grandpa raised his rifle as a massive wolf, human-sized, appeared on the road, eyes fixed on us. My uncle fired, hitting the wolf. It collapsed, twitching. We approached, a huge wolf with a hole in its stomach, reeking of death. Grandpa said it wasn't fatal, but the wolf couldn't move. We loaded it onto the cart and returned to the village, triumphant. Villagers gathered, amazed at the werewolf's size. Some wanted to burn it, but Wang Han suggested burying it, saying it hadn't killed anyone. Most voted to burn it. As the fire consumed the wolf, its fur burned away, revealing a human inside, Wang Han. The real Wang Han was dead, burned in the wolf's skin. The Wang Han among us transformed, revealing his true werewolf form, minus a tail. Grandpa realized the werewolf had cut off its tail to blend in. It had killed Wang Chui for trying to stop it from getting to me. The werewolf fled into the mountains. At Wang Han's house, we found Wang Chui's mangled body. The village was in chaos. Some demanded I be handed over to the werewolf to save them. Grandpa agreed to use me as bait to trap it. That evening, villagers tied me to a well rope, pretending to drown me to lure the werewolf. As I was lowered, the werewolf dove in, holding me above the water. Villagers netted the well, trapping us. The werewolf protected me, and I felt a strange connection. Then my body changed, I grew wolf fur. Villagers screamed that I was a werewolf. Grandpa confessed. I wasn't his grandson. 5 years ago, human traffickers took his real grandson. Thinking it was a werewolf, Grandpa found me, a wolf cub who could turn human, in a den and took me. Grandpa lifted the net, and the werewolf carried me into the mountains. 3 days later, I returned home. Grandpa and Grandma tearfully welcomed me back. I said, "I'll always be your grandson." We looked to the mountain where the werewolf watched us.